Greetings gastronauts, this is KeefCooks. I'm Keith and today I'm going to do some little pies. Oh yeah, I'm going to make dinky pies. So dinky pies were requested by Mike Jones and I got to confess I did have to look them up because I think I've seen them somewhere, possibly on Bury Market. But I don't think they're very common under that name. However, in supermarkets, you can buy them as cocktail pork pies or something like that, because basically they're just tiny pork pies, just about a bite size. And yeah, so this should be fun. As you know, I love me pies above all else, except Mrs. KeefCooks, obviously. So, if you enjoy this video, give it a like, share, subscribe, etc. And let's get on with it. Dinky pork pies. Okay, before you make dinky pork pies, you'll need some moulds to make them in. So I've got this silicone number. These dimples are about 4 centimetres, about 1.5 inches across at the top. They do taper somewhat down towards the bottom. I'll put a link in the description below so you can buy one of these from Amazon. I'll get a penny if you buy them and you won't pay any extra, so that's a win-win. Yeah, I was trying to think of other ways that you might do dinky little pork pies, but really couldn't come up with anything. So this ought to do the job, and there's what, 4, 8, 12, 24 little pies. Now we need some of my world famous hot water pastry. So I reckon if I make it with 300 grams of plain all-purpose flour, that will give us more than enough. Actually, 250 will give us more than enough. Half a teaspoon of salt in with that. And now we want 125 grams of lard, so that's half the weight of flour. And just cut that into bits. Put it in a saucepan, melt it on low heat, and then we'll add 125 ml of hot water and just heat it until all the lard is melted. Then we'll mix half of that in with the flour. And the rest of it. Mix it together into a nice smooth paste and set that aside to cool down. And actually I'm going to cover it with some plastic film because there's a fly in here. I'm going to make up the seasoning mix for our pork filling. So I want a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of white pepper. This will be quite a lot more than we need, but I will keep it for future reference or future use. Half a teaspoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of sage, and a teaspoon of mace. And I'm weighing this on the super accurate scale on here. Link in description below. So that's 15.86 grams. Good shape. Yeah, I said we won't use all of this. You need to use 11 grams per kilo of filling meat. So I've only got 500 grams of meat, so I will need to use 5.5 grams. How's that? Which is like a teaspoon. Meat for the filling. The pork filling, I've got 500 grams of pork shoulder steaks. I'm going to mince those. You can use ready minced pork, of course. So I'm going to mince those bits. This bit I'm going to just cut into little chunks so we get a kind of variegated texture. Now I'll cut these into chunks that will go through the mincer. And then mince them using the medium plate. There we go, a load of minced pork. So now let's combine that with the chunks of pork and the seasoning. So I said I want 5.5 grams of this, didn't I? So actually that was like 1.5 teaspoons. And mixy. And the ongoing saga of me forgetting to get vinyl gloves continues. Mix that as well as you can, then cover it and stick it in the fridge till we need it. Alright, time to roll out the pastry. So flour on the worktop. Then we'll grab some of the dough, and I'm going to make the lids first. So I've got this little glass which is just a bit bigger than the top diameter of these indentations, so I'll use that as a cutter. So roll it nice and thin. Alright, and we'll stamp out some lids. Okay, that's 24 discs. I'll just stack them up. Alright, there we go. I'll just wrap those in plastic film. And I can say film, but I prefer not to. And stick that in the fridge until we are ready for it. Now we're going to do a bit of trial and error to find out what size to cut the discs for the bases. I found this. It's a little bit too small, but I think we might be able to work with it. It's 57 millimeters internal diameter, which is 2¼ inches. So you cut your disc out and then just squish it a little bit to make it bigger. Then whack it down into your dimple. Well, there we go, 24 little dimples and actually a fair chunk of pastry left over. Now let's sort the filling out. Okay, I'm going to put the filling into the dimples. So I've weighed the filling. I've got 462 grams. You divide that by 24 and it comes to 19 grams. So this is 19 grams and I pop that in there and it's too much, would you believe? This one's 12. Yeah, so you know, it fits in a bit of space around it and it's a bit below the rim, which is what we want. So yeah, 12 grams. Who'd have thunk it? Sounds like almost nothing. Alright, this is going to take a while, so come back later. Go and have a cup of tea. There we go, 24 filled dinky pies, and quite a bit of filling left over, so actually 150 grams. I'm fixing the lids on, so it's a bit challenging because there's not enough rim really to stick them to. So I just moisten the whole thing, dip it in water and press it down as best you can. We're not going to get any fancy crimping or anything going on with these, and we're not going to get a full seal either, which I'm fairly relaxed about. There you go. Now we need some egg wash, which is a beaten egg with a splash of milk. Whiz those together. And you want your oven heating to 160 degrees if it's a fan oven, a convection oven. That's 180 for a conventional one, and that is gas 4. And just paint your pie tops all over. So we'll whack our dinky pies in for 25 minutes initially and then see how we're getting on. Okay, we had a bit of technical problems at the end of the last session, so it's the next day. Here are my beautiful dinky pork pies. I had to bake them for another 10 minutes, so 35 minutes altogether. So I'm going to make a few more pies because I've got 150 grams of the meat filling left over and this chunk of pastry. So in theory, if I make the filling 10 grams each, I should be able to do 15 pies. If I can make this pastry stretch that far, we'll give it a go, eh? Now actually I'm going to do something a bit different. So I've got this plastic lid which is a bit bigger than the cutter that I used yesterday, and I've got a small bottle, Tipex, that allows us to push the pastry down into the indentation without too much messing about. Now I want 10 grams of meat, and Pop that in there. Moisten the pastry with a bit of water, and then we can just kind of close it up like a dumpling or something. So it's not entirely closed, and looks a bit interesting. Looks a bit biological, but hey. I've actually made 15 discs, yes, and a little bit of pastry left over. How neat is that? Okay, 15 pretty weird looking, sort of, dinky pies, and we just need to paint those with the egg wash again. And actually I'm going to just bake these for 20 minutes, and I'll take them out and remove them from the silicone thing so they're just freestanding. Oh, these are looking kind of cute. Okay, I'll just transfer them onto this baking tray and put them back in for another 15 minutes. Alright, time's up, let's get them out. And transfer them to the wire rack to cool down. Now, if you've seen any of my other pork pie videos, you'll know that I'm a big fan of jelly in the pork pie between the meat and the pastry. It gives it a bit of sparkle and moisture and loveliness. So I'm going to attempt to get some jelly into my dinky pies. It might not be possible, and I think whenever I've had like a cocktail type pie, they haven't included jelly. But then again, a lot of modern pork pies don't even attempt to include jelly because some people don't like it. Hey ho. So what I need is some chicken stock, about 250ml, actually possibly not that much. So some water that's just off the boil, and a chicken stock cube. And then we need a setting agent, which in this case is gelatin. I've got half a sachet, 6 grams. So we need some hot water. And we'll add the gelatin to that. Stir that, get the gelatin powder dissolved. And traditionally in pork pies you'd use a jellied stock made up with a pig's trotter, because they actually contain lots of natural gelatin. But it's a bit too much for faff at the moment. Alright, that looks like it's nicely dissolved, so I'll put that in with the stock. And then we can put that into the pies. You might be wondering how we're going to do that. I will show you. Okay, flavour injector. Oh yeah. I might be being overambitious. I'm going to put those back in the silicone mould so it doesn't leak all over the place. Clever, eh? Okay, it's not working brilliantly. But at least I tried, and we've got some jelly in or about our little dinky pies. It's somewhat easier to get it into these topless ones. So we'll put those in the fridge for a couple of hours and the jelly will set. Okay, it's taste test time. So here's our assorted dinky pies, the normal ones and the fancy schmancy weird ones. A little bit of jelly down there, and I've got to say, you know, I put all the these ones back in the mould. That was a bad idea. It's made the bottom pastry go a bit soggy. Never mind, I don't mind soggy bottoms at all. I really got nothing to say. It's just fantastic. So give it a go. Dinky pork pies. Thanks for watching. See you next time.